hey, you suck at Tekken. I hate to be the one to break it to you. I mean it with all the love and respect that I can possibly muster, but there's just so many fundamental things that you don't understand or you're not doing. And it's really not super your fault. A lot of what comes with becoming good at Tekken is a lot of understanding things that aren't super intuitive. You might wonder how pro players can step onto the stage and fight a character that they're very not familiar with. Say a new DLC character came out and they're brand new. Or just a new character in general, like Victor Azucena. How can a pro player already be performing that well against them if they've only existed for a couple of months? Surely they haven't had all the things memorized yet. And you're right. They haven't had all the things memorized yet. And that's because they've built up such intuition with how to defend against things in Tekken and how to counter them that it's kind of just second nature. And building up that Tekken intuition is really what's going to carry you higher in ranks, more so than, well, gimmicky setups and frame traps and all of that. Anyway, but gimmicky setups and like the one player game, it's only going to carry you so far. Yeah, you'll go up in the ranks, but there's a pretty high likelihood that you won't really understand what's going on or why you're winning or even why you're losing. Rule number one, this is a very simple one. This is one that I see people get wrong all the time. If you are hit, we're going to set Kazi to stand. If you are hit, it is not your turn. I want to make this horribly, abundantly clear. If you take a hit, block. Frame advantage on hit is usually pretty significant. You'll see a jab is +8. And why is +8 significant? If they go for anything, we can counter hit with something that's 15 frames. Actually, +8, we can hit them with something that's 17 frames. I don't know if Jin has anything that's 17 frames. But even something as simple as a jab, if you get hit, it's not your turn. Obviously, this is Tekken 8. Things are weird and sometimes sidesteps don't work, but as a general rule, if you take a hit, don't press. If there's anything that you take out of this video, any one singular thing, if you get hit, don't press. Block, wait, bide your time. Given the ranks of people that are going to find this video helpful, more than likely, if you abide by this and you block after eating a hit, your opponent's probably going to do something stupid that you can punish them for. Which I think is a really good segue to punishment. You really gotta learn punishment. A lot of characters in this game have punishment that leads into their own offense. If we get Kazuya to do something that is -10 frames, a regular wind god fist, not electric, he's -10. Obviously, this is usually a misinput, so you'll see this all the time, and it's not really the biggest deal. But watch what I can do on the defending side once I block this at -10. I get 29 damage, and I can get my own turn started. You can go for a high power crush. You can go for a mid. You can finish the mid. There's all kinds of things that you can do. And obviously Jin is not the only character that can do this. Other characters that can do this, for example, are Azucena. Also, low-key, this Azucena custom is 100% carried by Nina Sunglasses. So shout out Nina. I hate her. She's really cool, but I hate her. And she's really cool and I hate her, but her sunglasses are really neat. Anyway, if we get Kazuya to do the same, win God Fist, -10. Azucena gets 1-1, and now she's in lib. She can threaten a mid. She can threaten a big-ass launcher. She can do nothing. She can jab, pester you with this. There's so many characters in this game that if you learn to punish even a little bit, you can really turn the tide. Reina's another example. My pride and joy, my bread and butter. Was a Reina main basically since the game came out. But if Kazuya goes for the Wind God Fist, we get the Flash Punch, which automatically puts Reina into Sentai. You can even hold back if you don't want to go into Sentai, which is funny. From here, you can do a knockdown mid, a plus high, that's a heat engager, a safe mid, a super unsafe low, that's the same one, a super unsafe mid, with a follow-up. And this is another thing. In terms of punishment, if you're playing a Mishima, you have... the world is your oyster if you're playing a Mishima. As we've just demonstrated with Reina, the 1-1-2 Flash Punch that is so ingrained in the Mishima bloodline, it leads to a good advantage, but not only that, it's hit confirmable, meaning if you block something and you throw out your 1-1, 1-1 is safe. You're not going to get punished for this. So if you block something that you perceive to be punishable, which we'll go over later, you could just confirm into the 2, and it just works. So you can throw out 1-1s like crazy. At least you get 11 damage, and your turn back. Once again, +6. You get a whole combo from that. I messed up the input, but you can whole combo from that. Now, every move in Tekken is a specific amount of frames minus. You know? If you've ever done punishment training, you'll know this pretty well. Like, I use my 15 frame here. I use my 12 frame here. Use my 13 frame here. I use my 12 frame here. Every move has a specific punish that you should be using. And it's what we would consider the optimal punish. But don't let that discourage you from trying to punish at all. Because, yeah, it's really intimidating to be like, oh, this move's -12, this move's -13, this move's -14, this is -12, -13, -12, -11, -10. Yeah, if you want to get really, really good, you can go ahead and try to memorize every move that's punishable and the correct punish for it. But it's just way safer of an option to look at a move and be like, okay, is this punishable? And if it is, try to punish it with your lowest baseline punish possible. If we go back to punishment training and we go to hard, so we don't actually know what the moves are, we just know that they're punishable, we can do a 1-1-2. And it's working. That was a lot. You can just do 1-1-2 all day. Like, yeah, that was launch punishable, but if you don't know that, you just know that it is punishable, or you think it is, you can just use a 10 frame punish. And it's fine. If something looks like it's maybe a bit more punishable, you can try your 12 frame. Rage Arts, you always want to punish those with a big launcher, because Rage Arts are -18. We've harped a lot on punishment and, you know, why you should punish and And, you know, if this move looks punishable, then blah, blah, blah. Well, how do you know if a move looks punishable? And that's where the Tekken intuition kind of comes into play. It's a little tricky. There's a couple of guidelines on what makes a move punishable or not. And I don't have them memorized entirely, so I'm going to look at my own script here. I'm just going to read the script. I'm not expecting you, at this point, to have every move that is punishable memorized. What I am expecting of you is to at least have the Tekken intuition to know when something is punishable. And here's a couple of guidelines. Strings that end in a mid are usually punishable, and strings that end in a high can be ducked and launched. So, if you've been in the red ranks, the yellow ranks, the orange ranks, whatever, you've seen this. Hell, I still do this and it catches people. This is Reina's 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll notice, it actually kind of sucks. Even if you get hit by the first 2 hits, you can block the following 2 hits. But remember what we just said about strings and knowing when they're punishable. That last hit is a high. So if you duck, it just whiffs completely. And you can launch them. Something as simple as this, that you see all the time in neutral, people just throwing it out, they die for it. I don't know the combo, but they die for it. Like 70 damage just because they decided to do that. You would be surprised how many Reinas are still throwing this out, just willy-nilly. Now, if your opponent is doing a move like this in your face, that's like 4 hits, and it seems like it ends in a mid, yeah, it's probably punishable. Like, I don't think that really needs to be said, but it does need to be said because so many people aren't punishing this. They don't know that they can do anything about it. It's minus 14. Jin gets that. 38 damage. Because you just patiently waited and you punched him. I forgot what I was going to say, but the point is, strings that end in a mid, punishable. Strings that end in a high, duckable. Strings that end in a high being duckable is actually pretty interesting because highs generally are pretty safe. They're fast moves that are mostly just used to pester your opponent. But you can hit a high and die for it. So if I go and find down forward 1. So this is a mid-high. You can duck under it. There are a lot of strings in this game where the second hit is a high. And yeah, she dies for this. Something as simple as that can be ducked and launched. There's one character in particular that I feel like really needs to be talked about when it comes to this, because this is a move I don't see punished ever. Enter Paul, strongest in the universe. One move from Paul that never, ever gets punished is down forward 1, 1, 2. The Lion's Roar. And it's safe. Meaning, you don't get a punish if you block all 3 hits. And if you think the last hit is a high and duck, you get knocked down and he gets a guaranteed ground follow-up. Now, I'll be perfectly honest, I did not know for the longest time that the second hit even was a high, but you gotta kill him for it. I don't know if every character can launch this. Normally, I would just go for a wall standing 4-4. Or a wall standing 4, whatever. But if you can't launch it, absolutely do go for the launch. Because the benefit is worth it. Let's go through some other mid-high strings that are pretty common. Falling Tower. This is a hit grab. So if it hits you, you get grabbed. That's a good chunk of your health bar gone. But this is really unsafe because it's a mid-high. She can even die for it. let's go through some more mid-high strings. Not because I want to drill the point home, kind of because I want to drill the point home, but more so because these things are so prevalent that I want you to start connecting the dots of where they might be. This is a move that I don't see blocked, I don't see ducked very often. And this one's pretty important because it leads to her pressure. In lower ranks of play, this is a very common tool for her to get into stance. And it is down 2, 3. The thing is, if you block this, instead of ducking it, you're actually at a disadvantage. She's +1. But the recovery on this move is insane. So if you don't block the kick and instead you duck under it, she dies. You get a full combo. This is another move that I don't see ducked at all. There it is, Snake Fang. Sidestep 2-1. This move goes unpunished all the time. Ends with a safe high. But if they just let it rip willy-nilly, they die for it. Fucked up the combo. I'm not gonna go through the whole roster and talk about all the mid-highs, but you know, it's just stuff that you should know. You want to start building your Tekken intuition and looking at things and saying, okay, that's punishable, that's not punishable. And even if you're not sure, try to punish it. Use your 10 frame. Use your 12 frame. Use your 13 frame. Use your intuition. Use your little brain piece to figure out if you got it right, especially now, because in Season 2, we have an actual punish indicator that we didn't have before. So now we can actually know when something's been punished. Now, let me refer to my notes because I feel like I'm losing the plot. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Launchers are usually punishable, excluding things like Raven's Wall Standing 2, which is safe. And there's a bunch of characters with safe down 4-2s. Miyari's one of them. I believe Hwoarang has one. Yoshi has one. Point is, launchers are usually punishable. And I feel like this is important to talk about because when you are determining whether or not something is punishable, it's obviously good to think about the numbers and visually identify, like, okay, that looks like a mid or that looks like a high. That's all well and good, but most of what you should be thinking to yourself is, how does this benefit my opponent? Because in the world of game balancing, for the most part, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if your opponent does this big giant launcher, it should probably be pretty punishable. If a move is unreactable and leads to a very favorable circumstance, it should probably be pretty punishable. Like all of the Mishima Hell Sweeps, Devil Jin, Kazuya, Reina, even Jin. And it's important to keep these things in mind because it's going to help you a lot more in determining when something is punishable or not. If you block something that just does a little bit of damage, there's a pretty high likelihood that it's probably safe or very minorly punishable, maybe -10. If something leads to a knockdown, or it's a heat engager, or it sets up something important for that character, there's a better likelihood that it's like -13, -14. It might even be launch punishable. There's also the risk reward in terms of really gimmicky strings. If your opponent is allowed to do these really long, elaborate strings, they're getting a bunch of hits off of you. And obviously it's not fair as the defender to just sit there and take the whole thing. So what's your reward there? How would the developer balance that so that it's not extremely annoying? Well, if we go for two very egregious moves in the Kazama bloodline, I am not even joking when I tell you I still see Junes doing this at Tekken God and Tekken Emperor. Look at the frame advantage. If June decides to do this, sorry, muscle memory. She's minus 50. Wow. She's minus 15. She gets launched for this. Basically for wasting your time. And the same goes for the other version of this that ends in the low. She dies for it. It should also be noted that, remember that rule I talked about? It is yet another string where there's a high in the middle. There we go. You can actually stop this midway through and not have to guess. Well, one thing we should go over is shoulders. Shoulders are a pretty big one. A lot of characters have shoulders, and I'm just going to break it to you right now. You're probably letting them get away with murder. I don't know the input for Fang, because I have no idea what Fang does, who he is, or why. But I know he's got a shoulder. And when I show you this, if you're not aware that this is a thing, when I show you this, your jaw is going to drop. So look at the frame advantage when I do this. Yeah, this is the part where I tell you that most shoulder moves are launch punishable. You've probably been letting Dragunov and Fang and Paul get away with fucking murder. Oh, shoulder smash. Bingo. Look at that, minus 18. These moves are very deceptive because they're pretty fast. They don't look super punishable. So even if you do punish this, more often than not, you'll probably get like a 10 frame or a 12 frame. Or a 13 frame if you're really thinking about it. But once you know that most shoulders are launch punishable, you should really get it in your muscle memory to start launching these. Because once again, the value is great. Okay, so the next section of our little crash course is, it's a simple one we don't really have to spend a lot of time on, but if a move that is a low staggers when it is blocked, that means it is launch punishable. So if we block this, watch how Brian jolts. That's called a stagger. And if a low staggers when you block it, it means you can launch it. And that's really all I need to say about it. King's really interesting because he does have a snake edge, but it doesn't stagger because it's so slow you're meant to parry it because it has a lot of pushback if you try to block it. And point is, Reina is a bit of an interesting case because she has a low that's super mega negative on block, but it doesn't stagger because it's a low high. It's extremely unsafe. It's like minus 30 or something, but it doesn't stagger because it plays out the remainder of the animation so that the high still comes out when you block the low. So as long as you're blocking low, you can also duck the high and then you launch it for it. Simple stuff. Oh, this is an important one. So in terms of punishment, I'm sure it's all very overwhelming. There's all kinds of different moves, 10 frames, 12 frames, 13 frames, 15 frames. There's even really specific things like 17 frames for specific moves. But if you want to get started with punishment, there's really only 4 that you need to know. And those are your standing 10 frame, your standing 15 frame, Jin actually has 2, your crouching. Yeah, you're crouching 11 frame, because all wall standing 4s are 11 frames. And you're crouching 15 frame. Or even better, if you have a 14 frame or a 13 frame. Like, Kazuya has a 13 frame low launcher. But those are the 4 you want to keep in mind. Standing 10 frame, standing 15 frame, crouching 11 frame, and crouching 15 frame. Because that is your standing baseline punish, that is your standing launch punish, your crouching baseline punish, and also do keep in mind that character specifics apply here. Characters like Jin, Kazuya, Reina can all do a wall standing 4-4 as their punish, and it'll connect. Some characters only have wall standing 4. Some characters do other things. I don't know. And it's also important to note that you want to keep in mind whether or not your character has a crouching 15 frame, because some don't. Some have their launcher as a 16 frame or something along those lines, and those are just specifics of your character that you should be aware of. Yeah, I brought up a really good point here, which is not every character has a standing or crouching 15 frame, which I just said. A really good example is June's 15 frame punish isn't a launcher. June's 15 frame punish is actually a string. Down back 1, 1, 1 plus 2. Basically, this section is don't always swing. And obviously you'll hear things like stop mashing, don't mash. And that's cool, but ultimately it's not very helpful, and it's pretty reductive of the nuances of how to play the neutral, which even I myself don't fully understand, if I'm being perfectly honest. But it's not always a battle to be first. When on the opposite end of a heat engager, people will panic like crazy. And they'll throw out their best buttons that are probably going to beat your buttons, and they're really putting all their chips on you doing something after you land that heat engager. Whatever. Point is, you land a heat engager, and if you attack on immediate timing, there is an opportunity for them to retaliate, and they could parry you, they could do something else. There's other situations that are probably more pertinent that really explain this, that I can't think of off the top of my head, but what I mean by don't always swing and it's not always a race to be first, even though frame data is a thing, and like if you're +5 it's your turn, if you're -5 it's not your turn, things like that, you've got to take your opponent's options and your opponent's character's options into consideration. Because if you do something, even though it's your turn, and you attack on immediate timing, even if it's something as simple as a jab, +1, it's my turn. So if I do another jab, it should connect. Oops, I got parried. Now, if you're fighting somebody and they're just sabakiing you till the cows come home, and let's say it's this specific sabaki. It's a high, you can duck under it. Or let's say they go for a parry, just a regular punch parry. You're gonna get parried. But parry loses the throw. So instead of always taking your turn and potentially getting reversed, you can wait to see what they do and punish them for it. Another thing that they'll do a lot of times after a heat engager is a hop kick. Incoming mix from a heat engager is usually like a mid-low situation, and some people want to gamble and bet on the low. So if they think you're going to do a low, or honestly, just fucking because, they're gonna do a hop kick. And if you do anything, you're gonna get launched. So, big hop kick, minus 13. Get a little bit of damage. So it's not always a battle to be first. Sometimes it's a battle to be last, because if you're last, you can take the time to analyze what they're doing and how to deal with it. The general consensus is play with more purpose. If you're gonna do a move, know why you're doing that move. If you're jabbing, why are you jabbing? Because if you jab too much, jabs are a high, and you can get launched for it. You really can. Something as simple as a jab could lead to you losing the round, or several rounds. So why are you jabbing? Some valid reasons to be jabbing are for frame advantage. Throwing out a single jab on hit is going to give you +8. On block, it's going to give you +1. Which is now where we get to very interesting situations. Remember the whole heat engager thing? Now, if we do a heat engager, and we walk to the correct side, because apparently that's the wrong side, continuing our race to be the last one, instead of attacking immediately with a jab, or going for a low and potentially getting launched, if you predict your opponent is going to do something, if they're the brash type that's going to go for some sort of launcher, or a big slow move, you can you can just move around them entirely, and then you get a whole combo from it. Something as simple as a jab being +1 means you can just get out of the way. And for some very privileged characters, you can get a free punish by just hitting a single button. Another situation is heat bursts. Heat bursts are interesting, because I do this all the time, and I don't think people understand why it works. So if I do my own heat burst, and they block it, I'm +1. Much like our single jab situation. You'll see their heat burst completely whiffs. So if I do my own heat bursts, a lot of people will be inclined to do their own heat bursts. And instead of this trade happening, you can actually get a great deal of advantage out of this and sidestep their heat burst. Obviously depending on the character, because some heat bursts are weird. But this is the fundamental of movement in Tekken. You want to step to avoid things when you're around minus or +6. I think that's pretty much... Obviously I've rambled a lot because... full transparency, I've been trying to make this video for a very, very long time, but the tasks of editing it and doing the voiceover and all that stuff is really daunting, and it made me like start and stop a bunch of times, so I figured I would just do one long, like maybe somewhat edited talking head video, just kind of talking about all the topics and things I want to talk about. So that way it at least goes out at some point. And honestly, I think that's kind of just all that I wanted to say thus far. I really hope you got something out of this. I really hope that this helps you to both just like play the game better, but also to understand why certain things work and certain things don't. And there's all kinds of specific nuances in Tekken that you need to be aware of to really like fully grasp situations and circumstances. Like the fact that hop kicks crush lows, so if you do a low, a hop kick will beat it. There's other things like hop kicks normally become airborne at frame 9, and just other stuff like that. The fact that Powercrushes become safe if they absorb a hit, even though, oh, that's a really good point. This is something I almost forgot to talk about. So there are a lot of Powercrushes in Tekken 8, and full transparency, I hate them. But Powercrushes are usually punishable. Minus 12, minus 13. Ravens is minus 14. There are some Powercrushes that are highs that are completely safe, so you gotta watch out for those. Asuka actually has one. Azucena has one as well. But another thing that's important to note about Powercrushes is they actually lose to lows and throws. You can see that hers is a safe high, which you can duck under it. Obviously the best solution, because you get a full combo. I don't know the combo. But, like I said, Powercrushes lose to lows and throws. So if you expect a Powercrush coming, you can try to throw it. Or you can poke it with a low. This does not apply to Rage Arts, which is one reason that I hate them. But just keep that in mind. One thing that's important to mention, this isn't super, need to know, but it is just a fun thing to be aware of. When you throw somebody, there is a certain window of frames where you can break the throw and get out of it. And this is still the case if a throw lands on counter hit. It's just that the frame window is much smaller. I believe it's 9 frames, which reference is 1 frame faster than a 10 frame jab, the fastest move that everybody has access to. I think I've covered just about everything that I wanted to cover, and thank you so much if you managed to sit through all of this. I know I ramble quite a bit, but it was either this or the video never happens, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I feel like there's a lot of people that need this video, because they suck. And you're probably one of them, and that's fine. It's fine to suck, because you gotta suck before you get good, before you improve, before you get better. The problem is, in a lot of cases in Tekken 8, it's not really the player's fault that they suck, because the game rewards them for doing things that they shouldn't be rewarded for. You can mash buttons with certain characters and make it always your turn. Some people don't even know the concept of turns or having turns at all because their character doesn't care. Like Yoshi. Yoshi can flash his way out of anything, even if it isn't his turn. And he gets a full combo for it, and then it is his turn. You've got both of the Kazamas, conveniently they're on the screen. They can be, what, -6? And they get a full combo if you attack them on your turn. +6. +6, they should be launched. But instead, they get a Sabaki, they get a parry, and then the momentum is in their favor again. So many characters are rewarded for doing dumb shit. So I can't really fault the players themselves for being complacent in that. I just really hope that this video finds somebody that really needs it, whether they're a beginner or an intermediate, or even somebody way higher. There could be somebody watching this right now that made it all the way to God of Destruction with one of these gimmicky characters that doesn't fully understand why they're winning or why they're losing. That's totally fine. I just hope that you get something out of this, that you learn something, that you incorporate this into your gameplay, that you think about it from time to time. That's really all that I want. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, and I'm just glad that it's finally out there in the ether and that people can watch it, hopefully enjoy it, and get something out of it. Thank you so much for watching the whole video, for giving me your attention, eyes and ears. and I will see you when I see you. Bye-bye.